JD Vance was on Joe Rogan podcast. Since we are not supposed to hear anything serious from Donald Trump because he was all over the media talking on, I don't get, because he's repeating the same thing. It's not giving any sort of information out.
Right,
He's just repeating, making the propaganda, because that's part of his strategy, because he's repeating the same sort of false narratives in order to make them real for the audience. But here is J.D. Vance, what he said about the conflict and the current situation of the conflict between Iran and the United States.
With Iran, where it seems like the president keeps saying that a deal's been reached, negotiations have been successful, and then it all falls apart and we start bombing them again.
Yeah, so how long do we have here? Because this is a long conversation.
As much time as you need.
So I have to explain a couple of things in the background so you sort of fully appreciate, people fully appreciate what's going on here. So number one, it's a bit of a simplification, but you have two elements within the Iranian system. You have, and you sometimes hear hawkish Americans say this, that they're all crazy people. They want to bring about, the 12th Imam and the apocalypse and all that stuff. Right. There are people in Iran who believe that. They're also pragmatists. You've got the crazy people, you've got the pragmatists, okay? So when we struck this MOU, and really what the MOU says, and it was misrepresented more than almost anything that I've ever worked on in public life. What it says is Iran is going to open the Strait of Hormuz, the violence is going to stop, and then we're going to negotiate to see if we can come to a broader deal on the long-term nuclear issue. That's what we wanted. And what the Iranians wanted, of course, was long-term economic and sanctions relief. Now, here's the problem with where we are right now. And I guess my summary view, Joe, is that I, of course, can't predict the future. I don't know exactly where this is going to go. But I think fundamentally we are on the right trajectory. It's just going to be really messy, and there's going to be a lot of stops and starts. So what happens? The first week after we sign the MOU, we get 20 million barrels a day of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it was before the war. The price of oil comes way down. And there are elements, the hardliners in the Iranian system kind of freak out a little bit. They're like, oh, shit. Did we just give away our major leverage point? Screw nuclear weapons. We just gave away the so in this MOU. And so there was this kind of freak out in their system. So they shot at a couple ships. We responded. And I think that's entirely appropriate, of course. If they're going to shoot at ships, we are going to shoot at the people who are shooting at the ships, or we're going to destroy the facilities that they're using to shoot at ships. So that happens. Okay.
So let me stop here. And basically, go ahead. Go ahead. I want to.
He's completely full of shit. Everything he said there is a damn lie. It's not true. The MOU said specifically that the country responsible for determining the safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz was Iran, and in accordance with that, Iran developed a protocol for ships to pass safely. Follow the instructions. File a request with the IRGC. It didn't say one damn thing in the entire MOU that Iran couldn't control the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran had to respect every other Gulf country, that Iran had no jurisdiction. None of that. It didn't say one word. But what it did say is that the United States is not going to attack Iran, and Iran's not going to attack the United States. So then you get these ships that are avoiding the compliance with the Iranian procedures. And within the Iranian protocol, they stipulated any ship that tries to go through without filing the report and asking permission will be met with force. Iran met them with force, and then the United States decided to attack Iran. Iran said, "You're not going to attack us." Iran fought back. And so now it's been in that tit for tat. Then Trump declared the MOU dead. Then he declared the ceasefire over. And then finally, it was yesterday that Iran said, okay, we're no longer bound by the MOU. MOU is dead. Ceasefire is over. We're back to square one. And we're still going to control who goes in and out of the Strait of Hormuz.
My problem with his argument is that he's arguing there are two forces in Iran. One of them is radical. One of them is more pragmatic. So the reason that we are getting back to the war because those radical people are running the show, so we have to respond to them. But that's not the case.
Well, I know that. You know, and I know that. That's just like I said. Everything he said was a lie. So, it's a shame to see J.D. Vance lying like that. But I hope he doesn't really believe what he was saying, because if he believes that, he's not going to be able to be taken seriously by Iran as somebody he can communicate with. U.S. is going to become under enormous pressure. I mean, the U.S. is going to be putting enormous pressure on Pakistan to try to get the talks restarted next week. I think next week. Maybe it'll be the week after. But the United States cannot sustain what it's doing right now, trying to attack all of these targets along the Strait of Hormuz. I'd say at a minimum, there are hundreds, if not thousands. And the U.S. doesn't have missiles and bombs to attack thousands. And I keep seeing reports, they're launching attack of missiles. No, they're not. Bullshit. People need to stop with that, because if they're being launched from Bahrain, they barely reach the Iranian shore, ATACMS. What the United States is using are called precision strike missiles, PRSMs. Only problem? Lockheed Martin has only made 56 of them, okay?
Oh.
So if the United States is firing 7 a day, after 8 days, you're out. No more. They don't have a lot of unlimited supply of Tomahawks either. And they don't have an unlimited supply of JASSMs. They're a short supply on all those. The United States is going to run up against those shortages. And then, to make matters even more interesting, the air bases that it's operating out of in Jordan are now constantly getting hit. All Iran has to do is keep blowing those up every day, cratering the runways, forcing them to repair the runways every day. And I would estimate in another week or so, the United States would be forced to abandon those bases. Can't use them anymore. Then where do they go? They're not alternative airfields. There's not like they got 10, even 5 alternative airfields in the area they can use. They don't have it. And they want to go use Israel, and the Minister of Transportation in Israel is telling the United States, get the hell out. We don't want your damn planes here. You're making us a target.
Yeah. Let me bring the second part.
No, fine. That you're right. We shouldn't have been shooting at ships. So then they come back to the table, and there's a few more days of negotiation. And then the phase that they're in right now is the hardliners have really, really reacted strongly to all the oil that's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz, and they've basically said, we're going to try to shut this thing down. We're scared about losing our leverage. Now, the pragmatists in their system are saying this was a mistake. Let's keep on talking. And again, do I know how this is ultimately going to shake out? Of course I don't. But what we're doing is a delicate diplomatic dance where we're using economic leverage points, we're using carrots and sticks, we're trying to talk to the pragmatists, and then, of course, when they commit acts of violence, we're responding to it. And all those things are happening simultaneously to get us on a better trajectory. Now, that said, yes, right now there's shooting right now. Last night they shot at some ships. But with all that said, is their nuclear program still destroyed? Yes. Are the straits not necessarily fully pre-war traffic, but are we getting enough oil and gas out of the Strait of Hormuz to prevent a worldwide energy crisis? Yes. And all of these things are happening in the context of the broader negotiation over the nuclear.
I don't know how he's getting more oil out of the strait when they have the blockade and the Iranian blockade as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at Vessel Finder and marinetraffic.com. The only thing in there that's showing is a U.S. Sailing, civilian craft, and I think it's a false image. It's called the Jersey Devil. I think it's an artificial intelligence generated image that is not real. Otherwise, nothing's going in or out right now. And if the United States presses it, and if the Saudis press it, with the Houthis in particular, they'll shut down the Bab el Mandab. And then the world economy will really be screwed.
You've said that the Trump administration is putting pressure on Pakistan to do something about the case, to do something about negotiations, or maybe convincing Iranian to negotiate with the United States. What is that? What are they talking about? What sort of negotiations?
Well, no, they want to get them back to what they were going to call the Islamabad Accord, to get the MOU reactivated. The problem is now I don't think Iran's going to go back unless the United States comes to the table now with firm, concrete deliverables. That instead of promising to look at unfrozen assets, no, you're going to unfreeze the damn assets now, turn them over, and not you're going to lift all sanctions, not some, all. You lift the sanctions, unfreeze the assets, then we'll talk. Otherwise, go ahead, punch yourself out. Keep attacking us, because we're going to drain you and we will force you from the Middle East, because all Iran has to do is attack 10 bases. That's all they got to do. Attack 10 bases, destroy those bases, do it how many days it takes, 20 days, 30 days, destroy them. Then the United States no longer has bases and no longer has a presence in the Gulf. They have been driven out. That's where this is headed.
Yeah. Today, the head of Iranian parliament said the memorandum of understanding is only meaningful when its clauses are valid and being implemented.
Right.
And he said if Iran gains nothing, it has no reason to comply. So the position,
Right.
I don't see the policy. He said, J.D. Vance said, this is some sort of political dance. I don't know what sort of dance is it that Donald Trump is talking about, bombing Iran, deep inside Iran and bombing. He said next week we're going to bomb their power plants. What sort of dance is that?
Yeah, no, that's just escalatory. And again, any Gulf state that is enabling these U.S. attacks will then be, their power stations will be targeted. So that will expand the target list for Iran. Any damage like that, and like this attack on the children's hospital, all this is going to do is further enrage the Iranian public, who's already crying for revenge. This is just going to up the cry for revenge. The Iranian authorities, again, the United States it thinks it can sustain this. Nonsense. It can't. If let's say that Iran fires, or that the United States fires an average of 10 Tomahawk missiles a day. So over 10 days, that's 100 missiles. Let's say they keep that up for 60 days. So they'll be up over 600 missiles. And that the United States, that is going to further reduce. I think the U.S. stockpile right now is like 2,400. So you get them down to 1,800, and Indo-PACOM gets a claim on some of those missiles. EUCOM gets a claim on some of those missiles. This is, like I said, this is not sustainable for the United States. And then we're not even talking about the effect on aviation fuel. If the United States is upping the number of air operations, then it's going to be significantly draining to the civilian aviation. Already, I was just looking, diesel prices now are going back up. In fact, here where I am, it's $2 more a gallon for diesel than it is for regular gas. And that's because there is a global shortage of diesel, and those shortages are going to be exacerbated in the course of the coming weeks.
Yeah. Iran is attacking American base in Erbil in Iraq, and some facilities in Iraq related to this Kurdish terrorist group in Iraq. It seems that what is the importance of American base in Erbil, Larry? How important is that? How many air bases does the United States have?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure it's actually as important a military base as it is a base for CIA operating under military cover. And CIA is there to train and equip the Kurds in order for them to attack, carry out terrorist operations and military operations inside Iran. So yeah, from that standpoint, it's pretty damaging.
We know that France is as France and the United Kingdom are active in that part of that close to the border of Iran with the Kurdish. What is the relationship between CIA and France and United Kingdom? Is that a long sort of cooperation altogether, or they have different sort of agenda there?
But it's a longer form of cooperation between the U.S. and the UK. Not so much with French intelligence. French intelligence has always been a little touchy, a little peculiar.
No. Because they're doing a lot. The reason I'm saying this because we don't have any sort of information. But when Iran is attacking them over and over, every day they're getting hit by Iranian missiles and drones. It
Right.
seems that something going on there. It seems that Iran is feeling
Like-
something.
Okay, what do you mean? Explain what you mean.
I mean
You
that
say something's going on there. What do you mean?
I don't know, some sort of activities, sending some weapons inside Iran, smuggling weapons inside Iran to make some sort of chaos inside Iran, riots
Well,
or
no,
something like that.
as I explained, it's a base for CIA operations where they provide training, paramilitary training to Kurdish forces that then at some point, and probably intelligence training as well for people that are going to be acting covertly in order for them to attack Iran. And that's why the United States is going to face Iranian attacks over the next few weeks until that place is destroyed and no longer useful.
Did you see the footage of the Turkish ship in the Strait, Larry? This
The one
footage
sinking.
came
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah,
Must have hit a mine.
yeah, it could be a mine. Yeah, but they're not going to learn. I don't know. How do you understand the behavior of Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar? On one hand, they were communicating behind the scene. You remember we had some reports from the Pakistani sources, from the Iranians, that they're negotiating behind the scene to put in their differences aside because the main objective is to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And right now they're somehow cooperating with the United States, sending these tankers and ships to invade or somehow use the southern part of the strait. What are they seeking for? Is there any sort of a strategy on the part of GCC countries?
No, there isn't. They're acting. They're in a complete reactive mode. There is no strategy. They're just, one minute they're going to run into the arms of Iran. Next minute they're going to run into the arms of the U.S. It's back and forth. It's just like we talked about with Yemen. 1 minute the Saudis think, oh, it's a great idea, let's attack Yemen, and then after Yemenis respond, Saudis go, ooh, never mind, that was a bad idea. We haven't heard a damn thing from them in 2 days now. They recognize, ooh, that's too dangerous now.
They hit one of the Saudi drones today, and they're so capable, Larry, by the way. I don't know what sort of air defense system they have, but you remember during the war, when the United States decided to go to the Red Sea and do something, to attack them, they were something, they hit more than 4 or 5 drones during those days.
Yeah, well, what you're looking at here is, I think, Iran's the upgrade in their air defense system. I don't know if it's the Russians, the Chinese, or both, but clearly they're now able to take out some systems that before they weren't. And that, again, those drones, those are $30-40 million drones. Those aren't cheap. very expensive.
Do you feel that next week we're going to have some sort of attacks on power grids in Iran, as Donald Trump pointed out?
Yeah, I do. Or at least that's the thinking right now, is depending on the kind of damage Iran inflicts on these military bases in the next 6 days. By next week, Trump will be saying, "Uncle, I give up. Let's talk. Let's get back to the negotiating table."